Welcome to the Camelot Getting Started guide. The first step to learning Camelot is to understand the interface, terminology, and basic structure of the application. This will enable you to get started with Camelot smoothly and without frustration. All right, now is a good time for us to share with you an important insight. There is no single right way to use Camelot. There is no set recipe, and the reason is simple. There is no single right way to make a live performance. Camelot can accomplish performance tasks from the simplest and most basic to the incredibly sophisticated. But you must understand how the program is set up before you can really make it sing and dance to your tune and meet your particular performance needs. Once you understand Camelot's tools, you'll be inspired to try things you never before even thought possible. So let's get started. Camelot's GUI, or graphical user interface, is divided into three main parts. At the top, we have the header. In the center is the program's main operating area, and at the bottom is the footer. The buttons in the footer provide the main means of navigating Camelot's resources. The 6 buttons on the left of the footer access the different views. The buttons on the right side of the footer activate retractable panels, which access more global functions that apply across the entire application. Of particular note are the 2 rightmost buttons. The red panic button in the right corner, which clears stuck notes and other errant MIDI messages, and the settings button just to its left, which takes you to a host of critical configuration and control settings for the application. To begin with, we will focus on basic settings and, in particular, on the audio and MIDI settings, as it's essential that your system configuration is correct before you can really do anything useful. Without audio output, none of the rest of what you do matters. So, click Audio to bring up the Audio Settings panel, then click Audio Output and select your audio interface or sound card from the list of devices shown. This will be the device through which Camelot will play software instruments, backing tracks, and the outputs from Camelot's audio mixers. If you'll be processing external signals, such as a microphone, guitar, bass, external synthesizer, or other instrument, you must click Audio Input and select the interface or device you will be using to accept audio signals and bring them into Camelot. We will address how to put these inputs to use in a future tutorial. It is especially important to understand the buffer size setting in the audio panel. The choice of buffer size is a trade-off between how much of a workload you place on your computer and how much latency or delay you experience. Lower buffer sizes give you a system that is more responsive, but places a greater burden on your CPU, which can limit how many effects or software instruments you can run at one time. If you are hearing clicks or other signs your system is struggling, you probably need to raise the buffer size so that the computational load is lowered. However, larger buffer sizes incur more delay in the system, which can begin to make performance more difficult. The right buffer size, which is to say the optimal compromise, is a choice you must make based on the resources of your system and your artistic needs. In future tutorials, we will deal with more advanced settings features, such as those that manage controller mapping, like a pedal to change the sound or scene, manage scanning of software plugins, or provide the ability to create backups and snapshots or restore points. Now, let's talk about your MIDI controllers and external devices. Needless to say, the first requirement is that you have a MIDI interface or card of some sort for the device running Camelot. Camelot allows you to activate inputs from and outputs to the MIDI devices you want to use. If you have a professional sound or MIDI card, it is quite likely that you will find yourself with many MIDI input and output ports that can be confusing to navigate and can generate configuration errors. Selecting the ports you actually intend to use streamlines the port list and clarifies your setup. So, before starting, we recommend that you select the MIDI ports that interest you and deselect the ports you will not be using. Now that you have completed basic configuration of your audio and MIDI input and output resources, let's go back to the header, which displays for you the names of the active set list, song, and scene. Information fundamental to understanding where you currently are in your playlist or repertoire. We will go further into the data architecture shortly, but you should always keep in mind these three fundamental coordinates. Continuing with the header, let's now focus on the application's main menu button, indicated by the icon with 3 dots seen in the upper right corner. It is very important to understand how to use the main menu, as it enables you to access Camelot's features through a wizard that guides you step by step. Let's look at how this wizard menu works. The main menu that appears when you click the 3 dots icon offers 5 categories of action you can take: create and add, edit, copy, make template, or export. Clicking any of these buttons brings up a submenu from which you select the object on which the action should be performed. To add a new scene, simply click Create and Add and then click Scene. The wizard means you never need to search to find a basic function. Furthermore, the icons used in the wizard are also used elsewhere in the program, so as you gain experience with Camelot, it becomes easy to perform the same functions in faster and more direct ways. For example, in the Scenes view, you will see, next to each song, the same pencil icon shown next to the Edit button in the main menu. Clicking one of these pencil buttons takes you directly into edit mode for that song with a single click, rather than the 3 clicks it would take to bring up the main menu and do it from there. So you always have a choice between 2 ways of operating: by stepping through the main menu wizard or by taking direct action in the desired context, page, or screen. By now, you're probably impatient to get to actually doing things, so let's go straight to the heart of the matter. We have seen that the header displays your current coordinates, which are the setlist, song, and scene. Camelot models your live performance by grouping songs into set lists. That takes us back to the footer, from which you access Camelot's different views and panels. The leftmost button on the footer invokes the Songs view, which is where you build and manage your set lists. The Songs view features 2 columns. Set lists are listed in the left column, and the songs contained in the currently selected set list are shown in the right column. As soon as you click a set list to select it, you will immediately see its songs displayed in the right column. To create a new set list, click the New Set List button with the plus sign icon, or, of course, go to the main menu for the guided process. However you get to the Create and Add Set List submenu, you will see 3 options: From Scratch, for building a set list from the ground up; Paste, for pasting a set list you have just copied to the clipboard; or Import, to open an existing set list file. Click From Scratch and give your new set list a name. A new set list starts with an empty default song, which you can always modify to build a new song. Creating another new song is similar to how you created a new set list. You can click the button at the bottom of the column that has a plus sign inside a dotted outline, or use the main menu wizard. The submenu that appears in either case offers the same 3 choices as for a new set list. Click From Scratch and we will build a new song. Now that there is more than one song in your set list, Try dragging in the list to reorder them. Click the three dots icon to the right of a song name, and a contextual menu appears that allows you to perform several useful functions, including renaming the song. The ease of reordering and renaming can come in very handy during rehearsals or for making last-minute changes before a gig. Songs are made up of different sections, which, in performance, may require different sound presets for software and hardware instruments, as well as changes in audio or MIDI routing or processing. Camelot accommodates this by making songs consist of one or more scenes. The scenes in a song can be stepped through manually or, as we'll see in a moment, automatically at pre-programmed times. The Scenes button, just to the right of the Songs button in the footer, takes us down one level of detail, so we can manage the internal structure of a song. By default, a song starts with a single scene, but the Edit button for the song, with our trusty pencil icon, enables us to create more scenes and, as with set lists, rename and rearrange scenes as well. The same result could be achieved using the main menu wizard. Now, a song has two main components, its scenes and its timeline, accessed by the button just to the right of the Scenes button in the footer. In the timeline view, we can manage multi-track playback of backing tracks in the form of MP3 or WAV audio files, add markers at specific times as positional references, and automate scene changes to happen during execution. To load a backing track audio file in the timeline, just press the plus sign button at the right of the backing track's banner, then follow the wizard as it guides you to select the file and place it at the desired time in the song. Markers and scene changes are placed in the same way. Other tutorials will detail how to make the most of these features. A scene is a collection of layers, which are complete signal paths of audio and/or MIDI items. Layers are the core of Camelot because loading a scene can redefine every layer, potentially changing everything: software instruments, management of hardware instruments, audio and MIDI routing and processing, mixing, and effects applied to audio inputs or software instruments. The Layers button in the footer brings up the Layers view, which has three sections: Scene Layers, Song Rack, and Setlist Rack. Right now, we will focus on Scene Layers. Let's take a quick look at the header to understand where we are: our set list, which song in the set list, and the intro scene, which at this point is empty. Creating our first layer is done the same way we have created before. We can press the plus sign icon at the right of the Scene Layers group banner, or use the main menu wizard. We're going to start from scratch and create a layer to which we're going to add a software instrument we want to play. Our work building this layer will focus on the colored section on the left of the layer with its contextual menu under the three dots icon, and the central section where our audio and MIDI items will be added by the plus sign button on its right. The audio settings on the far right of the layer will be explored in a future tutorial. Let's start with the layer management area on the left, which lets us configure the layer's audio connections and MIDI settings, including MIDI inputs and input processing, and audio input and output. In order to play a software instrument, we need a master MIDI keyboard or controller. So click the circle below the layer name and let's select the controller that we will use as the MIDI input to this layer. It's possible to select more than one MIDI input source for a layer if you need to. Note that each layer has a MIDI settings panel available that offers sophisticated processing of MIDI input, such as octave shifts, MIDI filters, and much more. Things that we will explore, that's right, in future tutorials. Once a MIDI input has been chosen, the layer is ready to play a software instrument, so let's add one. Press the plus button on the right of the main layer area to access a wizard that guides you through adding a new item. In this case, since we want to add a software instrument, we select Instruments and Devices and are presented with a submenu that lets us choose from hardware instruments, software instruments, or generic MIDI devices. We select Software Instruments, open the Audio Modeling folder, and select Swam Flute. The Swam Flute item gets added to the layer, and we can set the volume of the instrument and, with a double click or tap on the name, directly access the main interface of the instrument and change its settings as we want. The flashing dot in the layer management area shows the MIDI activity generated by the controller from which you will play the software instrument. This is the simplest possible configuration example. Let's make things a little more interesting and see how we can process a singer's voice. Create another from scratch layer, rename it, and choose a desired color. In this case, the layer must be fed from the audio input to which the microphone is connected. Note the different graphic indication of audio compared to the MIDI of the previous example. To add an audio effect item, we choose Post Processor and select Overloud's Gem Voice. Now that we have a nice scene with a software instrument and vocal processing, let's do another one that changes the instrument while keeping the vocal setup. Since we already have another scene made, we use the Copy Layer function to grab the lead vocals layer and we paste it into the next scene. To add a new solo instrument, let's copy the layer with the flute, and then, after pasting it into our new scene, replace the flute with a Swam saxophone. Finally, we enter edit mode and reorder the layers to our liking. We hope this is enough to give you a taste of what Camelot can do and how to get started with it. There is a whole lot more to Camelot that we will present in tutorials that will be coming soon. See you then.